In Tech Matters, the telecom industry outlook for 2016. The coming year will shape broadband and wireless communications for decades to come. In March, the Federal Communications Commission will kick off an auction of prized spectrum. We'll talk about what the heck that is in just a second. Around the same time, a D.C. appeals court is going to hand down a ruling on net neutrality. For more on that, I'm joined by Lydia Beyoud, telecom reporter at Bloomberg BNA. Lydia, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Remind our audience about net neutrality. What does it mean, and why should the average American care?
So net neutrality is the concept of fairness on the internet, and the FCC and consumer advocates have distilled those principles into the ideas of no blocking certain content, no paid prioritization, no throttling or slowing down that content online. People
have different ideas about what that fairness is, though.
That's right. And broadband providers say that the rules are controversial because they're affecting how they manage their networks, and they think that, not all content should be handled the same way. For consumers, the idea is really that you shouldn't notice any difference. There should be no negative impact to how you pretty much use the internet currently.
Providers sued the FCC last year. They want the power to block or prioritize certain content, as you mentioned. That case is in the U.S. Appeals Court for the District of Columbia. Now, you expect a ruling by April. Tell us more about the impact of that.
That's right. So it's pretty much impossible to gauge which way a court is going to swing just based on the judge's line of questioning. But coming out of the oral arguments in early December, folks really got the impression that maybe the court might strike down some of the FCC's rules. Part of what they did is they sort of strengthened the rules for both wireless providers and cable or wireline providers. And folks got the thought that maybe the judges didn't think that that was the way to go on the wireless side. So those rules could be remanded back to the agency, and they'd have to work on them some more, or depending on which way the court goes, Supreme Court appeal is very likely on either side.
So either way, providers are already modifying their behavior. How so?
That's right. Some providers say that they're being much more cautious in terms of how they innovate in the new services they offer. Other providers like T-Mobile have their Binge On program, which lets consumers stream data-hungry video applications pretty much for free. Some groups have said that what T-Mobile is doing is actually a per se violation of the net neutrality rules by slowing down some of that video traffic. T-Mobile is fighting back, and the FCC is taking a look at what T-Mobile and some of the other companies are doing in this space to try and figure out what's really going on.
Yeah, no one appreciates slow. So how do privacy rules impact this discussion?
Privacy rules are going to be the next big fight for net neutrality. When the FCC approved its rules about this time last year, they said, privacy rules that have traditionally applied in the telephone space are also going to apply in the broadband ecosphere. But we don't know how we're going to do that yet. Stay tuned. Now that we're in 2016, the expectation is the FCC is going to come out with those rules, and I can guarantee you it's going to be a fight.
Yet another one. All right, another watershed moment for the wireless industry in 2016. In March, the FCC will auction off a lot of spectrum, and there are a lot of question marks here. What do we know? What does the FCC need to iron out here?
So this is the first of its kind spectrum auction. No one's ever seen it before. Broadcasters will have the option of relinquishing some of their spectrum that will be resold by the FCC to wireless providers. And the big question here is who's going to show up on either side. How many broadcasters are interested in changing their business models, and how many wireless carriers are interested in purchasing that spectrum, and for how much money? The dark horse here is also, will other companies like Comcast or Dish Network show up and make a bid for some of that same spectrum as well? We don't know, but we will see in the next few months how things shape up.
Of course, we're interested in this one. Do broadcasters stand to benefit financially if they release their own spectrum?
It's thought that for some broadcasters and maybe some major markets, it could be a bit of a windfall. But for broadcasters in more rural areas, it's unclear. I think every broadcaster in the nation right now is crunching the numbers and figuring out what's the best course of action for them to take.
Right, at a time when they're struggling with how to continue to be profitable. This could be helpful. All right, Lydia Beyoud, telecom reporter at Bloomberg BNA. Thanks very much.
Thank you.